Hello everyone, welcome to another Themer solo video. My name is Maggie. I am the Themer half of our channel ThinkerThemer because I'm all about story, I'm all about the theme of a game. My better half, Amy, my wife, she is the thinker half. She's all about mechanics, but she's not here today because today we're going to be looking at a game that is a co-op, and our household doesn't tend to co-op, but I tend to solo co-ops, and so that's why this little gem falls to me. Now today I'm going to be looking at the Automaton of Shale, which is an expansion or a kind of like short story adventure for Too Many Bones. This is compatible with both Too Many Bones, the base game, and also with Undertow, which is the standalone expansion. I did a full review and overview of my experiences with that. That's how I was introduced into the world of Too Many Bones, and that's the only way that I've actually played Too Many Bones, aside from with this. And so check out, I'll put a link to that video in the description. But we're here to talk about the Automaton of Shale. Now, be warned, there's going to be some spoilers ahead. I will try and see, I'll try and maybe use the timestamps to guide you around the spoilers in case you don't want to see anything that you shouldn't. But let's get into this. So the Automaton of Shale is, as I mentioned, a short story, kind of like one adventure. Usually when you play Too Many Bones, you would start with picking a tyrant, which is going to be the big meanie that you're going to be attacking by the end of your adventure. With this case, and that tyrant will also dictate the encounter deck, which is going to be all the different, the individual adventures that you'll go on your way to being able to take on the big bagged baddie, I guess. Here, the Automaton of Shale takes over that process and essentially there's no tyrant that we know of, at least when we set out, and there's also no encounter deck. So let's have a look at what is in here. So again, I don't know if this is probably not a huge spoiler yet, but I'm going to try and sort of demo things as we go. So as we open this, we've got this is like an unboxing as well as a review. We've got our main pop-up book. So yes, this is a pop-up book. I don't know if you remember, or if you the kids pop-up books. I don't know if there's a lot of grown-up pop-up books. I'm saying pop-up books a lot. This is my first grown-up. I don't know how much of a grown-up I would feel with this, but this is my grown-up pop-up book, where as you open it, you're gonna have, beautiful, I don't know what you call that. It's sort of like paper artistry to bring a scene or a setting to life. This is going to be replacing your encounter deck. This is all the encounter deck that you will need. Every page that you open onto is going to be a new setting or a new scene, and you will be given the things that you need to go on your adventure through that. You would start the game with just obviously your gearloc and either your kind of base battle mat or your Undertow battle mat, which obviously has the water side with the raft and the land side, and then we sort of get started. The one thing that I will say is apparently there was a mistake in the printing, the production, and the setup card that gives you some of the heads up of what to expect got mistakenly put at the very, very back. So you're going to have to start by kind of open it to the back and try not to have too much of a peek. Open the back area where you'll find the little card that is sort of hidden in the back, and fish that out to have your setup, and then kind of close that up straight away. So I will be opening this to give you a bit of an idea of what's inside. Not the full, you're not going to get to see all of the pop-up-ness, just a little bit of it. So the first page is going to be kind of like our setup for the story, and then it all kind of starts in the middle of the night, or I believe it's like very, very early in the evening. You're going to have things like this where you'll kind of open this up and it'll unfold, and you'll have a beautiful story told in verse, which really helps to kind of set the mood. And then it'll talk about, like, you'll hear the knock on the door, and then you've got the other gearlocs just, what are they doing? I think that's a tavern, so they're just the tipsy troll. They're just having a great time in there. And then you're finding out that the Cloud Spear is under attack. And so it's been destroyed, and then you can kind of see how things evolve as we move things like that. And so In here, you're going to be given instructions of what to do, some of your encounters, and then I'm going to open the next one. So again, spoilers, skip if you don't want to see this. As the night progresses, we find ourselves napping in the woods, and we encounter this little guy. So yeah, so I found that with things like this, as you're exploring through it, you'll find that there's going to be pages where you have little pockets like this, where, as you may have guessed, there's going to be some chips there, potentially some baddies, and then your folders, little, kind of envelopes here, which are going to be more cards. Sometimes there might be some cool new loot. Sometimes there might be encounters, and essentially helping you resolve what to expect with this. And in this one, what? Oh yeah, so we're all sleeping, and we're woken by that creature. I'm not going to say who they are, and then you can kind of go, get rid of that, of your blankets, and grab the nearest weapon. So in terms of, I'm not going to open any more of these because I don't want to spoil the rest, but in terms of the experience playing with this, there's also something else in here, actually. There's this little deck holder, which says do not open until instructed. So I'm going to pop it back in there. I have opened it because I've gone through all of this and had a bit of a play with that, but I won't spoil that for you. I'll talk about the experience playing this. I feel like this is possibly ruined all future adventure gaming experiences for me, because now this is the format that I want all of my future narrative games to take place in. It is so fun, even though there's not that many, because obviously it feels fairly thick, but it takes, because of the layers of paper, every time you open it, there's a lot, but there's not that many scenes. It's probably the length of just like a regular game, which is what I didn't like so much about it, because it's like, it was over too soon almost. But it was so delightful. Like, it was a genuine surprise and delight every time I opened onto a new page. And it was like, what's in here? And what am I going to encounter? To the point that I didn't even care if I was being destroyed or if I was winning. I was just having such a great time exploring this story and going through this little adventure. I think one of the things with this is if you see my review of Undertow, is Too Many Bones is a game that, because it can be quite fiddly in the sense of like you're constantly having to reference back to your skills or your dice abilities, and also with a lot of the baddies, every baddie does something and you have to go to the gearloc adventuring reference guide and go, what does that do again? It's a game that is very start-stop for me. Also, because there's so much dice rolling, there's a lot of luck involved, and I tend to not enjoy luck as much, because, sometimes it can be extremely devastating if you're just, really unlucky. The other side of that is sometimes it can be like extremely lucky and be like, sweet, I was really ill prepared for that battle, but things seem to work out for me. So that is a fun experience. However, I think for me, I usually like a bit more predictability or more control over the circumstances that I'm playing. So I get to kind of feel like I can take more of the responsibility or more of the glory for the good decisions, as opposed to like, I just had bad luck and the dice weren't with me. Having said that, having something like this is probably the main way, or one of the ways that you're going to very easily get me to come back into the Too Many Bones world, because I didn't care about, again, the luck of it. It was just like, that was fine. That was part of the journey. Going through the story is so much fun. The language that is used, I actually quite enjoy a lot of the humor and the pop references and the dad jokes and the in-jokes as gamers. I really enjoyed coming across, all the different scenes as I opened up, the pop-up book. Every new page felt so different and felt like a real immersive, like, ooh, where are we now? What are we doing? And it's so great to be able to have that book open and on the table while you're playing, because it's quite literally the backdrop to the gaming experience. In terms of the things that weren't so good about it, and there's not really a lot that I would pick on this, one thing was, because this is It's compatible obviously with both the base game and Undertow, the expansion, the standalone expansion. I had only played Undertow, which means that some of the references I was kind of missing because I'm not familiar with some of the other gearlocs in the Too Many Bones world, and I knew that there was some things might actually be like little Easter eggs or little nods to other things. The other problem that I found was sometimes some of the abilities of, let's say, foes that you may encounter are not covered, or at least I couldn't find them covered as part of my Undertow expansion. And then when I tried to go online to figure out, well, what does this do? Like, what does it mean what ability does this foe now have that I have to resolve for them or figure out? It was actually really tricky. Like, I actually really struggled to find what that was for some of them. So sometimes I just kind of had to like guess. Sometimes I was sort of lucky to find it in a BGG forum thread, but sometimes Google just thought that I was genuinely worried about having too many bones, and it was trying to kind of give me medical advice. I'm like, no, this is... So that's one of the things that I wish at some point, hopefully Cheap Theory Games can provide a little reference of anything that I'll need to know, regardless of what game I'm using as my base. Even if it's an electronic file, that would be really, really handy. The other thing about this is, because most of the excitement in this is the discovery of what happens and yes, after you've played it, you can integrate any of the things that you find. So any of the new cards, could be encounters, could be loot, could be other things. All of that you can integrate into your kind of broader game and just use it in future games as part of your general gaming experience. But it sort of feels like the real gem of this was that story. So from a replayability point, once you kind of know the story, there's not that much more to that. So this is the kind of game that I would either just play if I've never played it, because I get to explore that story. I would love for more and more of these sorts of stories to be developed. I would be buying, I would be kind of going into each of those new ones. But I understand that obviously this is quite a production to bring together and bring to life. And so the only other place, so it's either playing, constantly trying to play a new one, or the other thing could be playing it with a group that hasn't played it before. So it's kind of like rotating my way around the gaming groups to be like, hey, it's kind of like when you have a movie or something that you enjoy and you want to share it with someone else. That's probably the only other case that I would be playing this myself. So I'm looking forward to playing this again. I've sort of said this before, with Amy's brother, who's very much into RPGs and loves obviously dice, and this is like the best of both those worlds. So having this story, I think he would completely love that, and I would love to experience that through his eyes as well. So in terms of, because of the replayability issue, I know that, again, with Cheap Theory games, they can be hard to come by. Sometimes they're out of stock, but it's my understanding that they tend to hold their value. So it's just one of those games that then once you have played it, if you're like, well, I'm not going to play it as a story again, and I'm not really all that interested in incorporating those things into my regular game, you can reset it and either pass it along to somebody else, or even just resell it and recoup most, if not all, of your initial investment, and then move on to hopefully more stories and more adventures like this. So that's it. That's my review of the Automaton of Shale. I absolutely, really, thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. It has probably ruined me for all other adventure games if they don't come in that sort of beautiful pop-up format. But if you like this review, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Bye for now.